Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by HardMoneyMastermind.com.
Hey everyone, Chris and Jason here. Thanks for checking out the Private Lenders Podcast. One real quick piece of news. We are having another intensive training, a 2-day intensive, April 23rd and 24th for a max of 3 lenders. 1 spot is filled. 2 still remain. If you want to learn more, go check out hardmoneymastermind.com and click on consulting. All right. Today we're talking about closing loans, which seems to be surprisingly difficult for most lenders out there. Whether it's conventional mortgage industry, private lending, DSCR, commercial, whatever it is, real estate lenders for some reason are notoriously awful at hitting closing dates. And that provides you and us with an opportunity. If you can hit your closing dates every time, that's a huge advantage. It's something to market about. It's something to brag about. You can even trash talk your competition about it. Very simply, just getting to the closing table on time. It reminds me of a story from back in our conventional lending days. I was at SunTrust Bank, and there was a guy, and so I knew a lot of the top producers around DC metro area. This is just regular conventional lending to homeowners, stuff like that. There's a big producer named Darren somebody, I forget his last name, from Northern Virginia. And his whole claim to fame, he was a big producer, made a lot of money. He was well known. All the real estate agents at like Fairfax and Arlington, that area, loved him because he always hit his closing date in an industry, in a lending type that is just notorious for missing closing dates. And they nicknamed him the closer. It was Darren, the closer, somebody, I don't recall his last name. And he became really well known, and he made an absolute ton of money in that business. And that's, no one ever mentioned his interest rates. No one ever mentioned his loan programs or underwriting guidelines or anything like that. The only thing he was known for was closing deals on time, and every real estate agent loved him.
Well, it's crazy that that's like the barrier to entry is just actually performing on the product that you're selling your client.
Exactly.
but it's true. And this has been the case for 17 plus years since we've been in this business. If you can, a lot of real estate investors are just concerned if you can close on time, right? Can you actually close? Can you close? Can you close? They have a lot of money on the line. There's a big deposit. There's real estate agents involved. There's sellers involved. There's brokers involved. Like, they want to know that you can close. So that's part of your kind of unique selling proposition, that like, we close on time. I remember we had a meeting with a private lender or hard money lender years back, right when we started. And the 2 things he told us was, listen, if you can close on time and you can get construction draws out very, very quickly within a day or 2, you will win and succeed in this business, because so many folks don't. And I know that, over the years, we've had to all compete with institutional back capital, and, we'll see kind of what direction that goes. That's kind of, we've seen softening in that space. But let's be honest, those guys are great salespeople. They're great salespeople, and they can sell their product, but the loan officer doesn't even know if they can even perform on the product, or perform, or if the rate's even going to be the same, or they don't even know what timeline is, right? Because they're contingent on third-party appraisers and third-party vendors and things like that. So, it's one of those things that part of our sales spiel is, listen, on every deal, I'm on the phone with somebody, maybe they rebut interest rate, or they rebut points, or they rebut something. It doesn't really matter. Maybe the amount of cash to close that they need. It's very simple. It's like, hey, listen, man, guy, girl, I'm gonna make this process very easy for you. You told me you needed to close by Friday. I'm gonna close it on Friday. We've been in this business a long time. We'll get this thing done for you. I'm gonna keep it very easy. I'm gonna keep it very simple. I'm not gonna over document the file. I'm not gonna come to you with last minute things that you're gonna need. We're gonna close on time. This is a rush. We'll prioritize it, and we'll get this thing to the table. And as a hard money lender, that's an important part of reassuring your client. It's an easy process. We're going to close on time. And if you can close on time, you're going to know for that stuff, and people are going to reach out to you. Yeah, you might lose deals because you have lower leverage than other folks, or you charge more than other folks. That's fine. But they're going to know that you're the guy, the girl, the lender that can close on time and quickly, and use that to your advantage. We use that in a lot of our marketing efforts. Quick closings, close on time. And I know that sounds simple, because every lender, if they commit to something, they should be able to do it. But so many most of them just can't, or they don't. And they're selling a story that they might not be able to execute on. So use that to your advantage.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's such low hanging fruit there. We pick up deals every month just based on the fact that the borrower who comes our way doesn't trust a lender is going to get to closing table on time. And so they'll go with our terms and, whatever the loan quote might be just to get it done. And you're right. Isn't it kind of ridiculous that their main job is to close loans and they're really bad at closing loans? The majority of the industry, both resi and commercial.
Well, because they're good, because a lot of them are good salespeople, and they're selling something that they don't have full control over, right?
Yeah,
As we're private lenders, we're hard money lenders. We have full control over this stuff, and I'm not sticking up for them. There's no excuse, but because here's the thing: if they were good, they'd sell the product that they could perform on, but they don't fully know what that product is. They haven't studied it enough. They don't have enough experience with it. Sometimes things are changing out of their control. Like, we know what we want to lend up front. We know what the terms are going to be. We know what the requirements are going to be. So it's bang, 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 bang. We're committing that we're going to do this, and we're going to be able to close on time, like we promise.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why we moved from conventional lending back in the day to hard money, is that two things. One, control, and two, profit margin. And we moved over to private lending, put together a few bucks of investor capital that grew over time. And we had those two things that we wanted. We had control over our process, our underwriting, what went into the due diligence, like whatever it is, we control it. And the profit margins are good in this type of lending. So it's exactly what we wanted. But it's just wild to see. Like, we have a situation going on where we have a number of loans with one borrower, one family, and a couple of them are in default and a few are performing. And they're looking to they own a lot of real estate. Like, these people own dozens and dozens of properties. And they're used our loans for bridge loans, and they've had trouble getting out of it. And now they are looking to close a portfolio loan that's going to be a single-digit interest rate. It's permanent debt, right? Like, that's what they need on this portfolio of resi and commercial properties that they own. And the lender is pushing back. It's like week after week. And, it's gotten comical. There's a lot of people involved in the process. There's a title attorney, there's our attorney, there's a borrower's attorney, there's a broker. There's a lot of people involved in this transaction, and I just can't help but laugh. Like, we're into the foreclosure process on a few of these, so there is the clock's ticking, and so we're not too stressed about it. We're in a pretty good position, and when we do get paid off on these, we're going to make some money. But like, don't you feel like an idiot being a lender and just missing a closing date and another one and another one, and everybody in the transaction knows about it? Like, you pretty much suck at lending, which, again, it's frustrating in some ends, but I think the main point to take away is that it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to control your own capital, control your own process, have tightened up processes and tech and everything else, and get to closing on time, and then use that for marketing. Brag about it. Tell people. We do it all the time. Email broadcasts, social media posts. Like, we make stories about how here's a situation. We were able to get it to closing on time, gave the borrower this loan amount, here, blah, 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 right? And make a little story out of the transaction and brag about the fact that we can actually get to the closing table.
Yeah. And one thing related to scripting that I think is important is when you're on the phone with a borrower and you just can't get them converted. The down payment's too high for them. Maybe your terms are too high and they just aren't on board. Instead of trying to like hard sell them on everything, or and potentially misleading them, or even having to cut price or increase your loan amount that you don't want to do to try to save the deal, just do a very easy script. Be like, hey, listen, unfortunately, this might not be the best, we might not be the best source for you at the moment, but just keep in mind that we can get this thing to the table very, very quickly. So if your other lender can't perform, soon as there's some, signs of that, red flags, like they're delaying closing, they're asking you for additional due diligence, they're, bringing up stuff to they're not communicating with you, whatever it is, right? Soon as you kind of can read the writing on the wall that that's occurring, call me back, reach back out to me, and we'll get this thing closed very, very quickly for you. So that's always kind of in our scripting process. Like, I never, at the end of the day, if I can't get a deal I can't get a borrower to move forward for one reason or the other, I'll just leave them as, hey, listen, unfortunately, this probably isn't going to be the best fit. That being said, if you run into problems with your lender and the other lender that you want to go with, no problem. Just reach out to me and know that I'll get this thing to the table extremely quickly.
Yeah, use it to your advantage. I mean, that's the thing to take away here. And hopefully you do have your capital in place and everything else so that you are ready to go, because you will win deals. Absolutely.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode, but this is real life. Like this stuff happens. I mean, I'll tell you that probably 20% of our loan portfolio, 20% of the loans that we close every month are deals that they came to us originally and they thought that it's not usually our terms are too high. It's usually that they need too big of a down payment to use us. So they'll go try to find other capital. Typically they'll get steered towards institutional back capital because that's usually the highest leverage capital that's out there. They need the smallest amount of down payment. They'll go through those channels. They'll get kind of strung along for a week to another week to another week to another week. And they'll be like, God, I'm going to miss my closing date. I'm going to lose my deposit. The seller's pissed off at me. The real estate agent's pissed off at me. And then they'll call us back. And then, we look like we saved the day. And typically after that happens with a borrower, it's great because they're kind of going to be stuck with you in the future, right? They're not going to want to go that direction again because they don't want to be embarrassed and they don't want to not be able to close the deal. So they'll understand the true value of using a true hard money lender or a true private money lender that controls the capital. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, definitely check out hardmoneymastermind.com, hardmoneymastermind.com. We're putting a lot of additional content and resources on that website, hardmoneymastermind.com, and we'll see everybody next week on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.